Welcome to Ministries Podcast. We are in May and it's Mental Health Awareness Month, but also in Revive Ministries, we focus on remembering our names. One of the first things we are given. I've shared this short story many times, the story of the presenter to these kids about showing a $20 bill and then crumpling it up, stepping on it and asking who still wants the $20 bill. It retains its value and kind of segues and tells the people, listen, there's an important lesson to this. We may be going through a lot of things, but doesn't mean that our value changes in that regard. I went through that very quick, but at the same time, I think it's a lesson that all of us can just interpret in our own ways. Today, I just want to also, again, it's Mental Health Awareness Month. It's important for us to be reminded. Today, we have a new guest. His name is Dr. Alain Salas. Thank you so much for coming on and being part of this conversation.
Sure, it's my pleasure, Robert. No problem.
No problem. So I'd like to begin with a short disclaimer. In States, 988 is our crisis hotline. If you are in need, I would encourage you, if you feel like harming yourself or others, I would encourage you to call this number, get help, get family, friends, whoever you feel you can trust. Wherever you are in the world, find what resources, a church, a mosque, whoever you feel, or a group, someone, a family member, a coworker, find them, tell them that you're not doing well, get some help. Alain, I always bring up quotes, and I just want to get some of your insight on what you think about them. I start off with C.S. Lewis. He says, "We are what we believe we are." We're talking about Mental Health Month. We're talking about internalize and personalize. What is your take when you hear this quote, or anything else that you want to bring up, Alain?
Yeah, I think that's very true, but you have to put context on it. So
of course.
We believe. What does it mean we believe, right? So at what level of our mind? Because we've got basically two minds, right? We've got actually we're living in two worlds, in two separate worlds at the same time. We've got what we call the outer world, right? And the outer world, we can call that our conscious mind, right? So it's our self-identity. We think you are, our personality, right? What we are aware of, right? Which is basically, your thought, your emotion, your action, and your behavior, right? And after you've got a very secret, hidden, we call that the inner world, right? And it's a very that mind, we don't know really what's going on there, and we call that the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is where record everything you have been doing in your life from age 0 to now, right? And also it's all your skills as a podcaster, whatever skill you need in order to perform in life are stored there. All the automatic process in your body, like your heartbeat, like your digestion, your breathing take place in that. But not only this subconscious mind is very intriguing to me, but that's where our belief are stored, our program. Because you have been programmed, I have been programmed, everybody listening to that program has been programmed, right? And so that's where our core belief, in a way, that sometimes those programs, since they are in the subconscious mind, we are not truly aware of those. Right, and so that's why the way I interpret that, it's like we believe, but we believe in the subconscious mind.
Yeah, and you mentioned context. I feel it's so important that we don't objectively look at this when it comes to mental health, how we struggle, why we struggle. I know from my experience working in the field, experienced mental health issues myself, that there was definitely different aspects of how I was seeing it. My reframing, my view of what was actually happening versus what I was willing or able to process was probably the biggest struggle, the internal struggle of understanding not what the general scope of what would help me, but what would contextually help me personally, going through the work of mindfulness practice, finding out what I am really struggling, what barriers are there that are present in front of me. And working in the field, I see that context, environment, culture, all this stuff matters when we talk about we can't talk about mental health in a very general sense, because not every person, every individual's life is going to respond the same way. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? I don't know if that was anywhere close to what you were sharing before, but what are your thoughts on how people react and respond, and through negative thoughts, negative experiences, mental health, illness, or just all in all? What are your thoughts on that?
Sure, Robert. Let's keep it very simple, right? I believe in what I call the cause and effect. So for every cause there's an effect, and for every effect there's a cause. So I don't believe in chance, right? I believe in good timing, and things like that. That's it. So starting from that premise, right? What's happening? It's like when you've got a problem in life, and that problem can be a health problem, a health mental issue, can be on a relationship problem, it can be a prosperity problem. No matter what problem you have, you need to know two things in order to resolve that problem permanently. So what do I mean by permanently? When you're done, you are moving on, you don't even think about your problem. It's gone, right? So what are those two things? Number one, Robert, you need to know what's causing your problem, right? If you don't know what's causing your problem, how can you fix it? And number two, you need to know how to fix it. So if you need, but this seems very simple, but when you apply those two things, you'll be surprised how your how the false road, and things like that, can the things that can mislead you with applying those two little things that seem very simple, right? Of course, right? Okay. When you've got a mental issue, right, and you take a drug, right? Is this addressing the cause of your problem? No, because it's not the lack of a drug is not causing your problem. You see, and yet people will say, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to take that medicine, and that medicine is not going to be able to heal you." Means heal you, you don't have any more problem, right? Because ultimately, when you don't have any more problem, you shouldn't take nothing. You're done with it, right? So now the question: what's causing the problem of a mental issue? And there's a common things. It's called the programming that we have been facing. We all have been programmed, and that program is on the subconscious mind. Let me put things in perspective a little bit. We can be programmed anytime. I want to make sure that people can understand that, right? And so from age 0 to 7, we are like sponges, right? And basically what happened, we've got even different brain wave. We've got theta wave, we've got beta wave. And so we assume that what we see in the outer world, right? We assume that it's true. So you make the assumption once, twice, and it becomes a program. And that program going to your subconscious mind, right? You've got two kind of program possible. You got programs that are serving you, right? It's kind of like your mind is working for you. You've got a day and you are so productive, and you've got awesome contact with everybody that you meet, and everything is flowing, right? Again, your mind is working for you instead of against you. And those programs we are called empowering belief. Empowering belief. And after you've got programs that are not serving you any longer, right? And this program is kind of like your mind is working against you. And it's just like one day you wake up and all what you're doing, it's not even productive, it's counterproductive. And you say, oh man, I wish I would have stayed home and sleep, that day, because this is not helping me, right? And those are called limiting belief, right?
I see.
And so those programs, they're impacting you. They're coming from your past, because those programs, you can acquire them from other people around you, right? Like you say, can be cultural, right? It can be your family member. It can be, of course, your dad and your mom, right? It can be some big trauma that you had, PTSD, for example, if you are in the military, or you don't have to be in the military, but that's usually what people. So one trauma can really define your life, right? And impact seriously your life and make you have have mental health issue, right? And so
Mm.
all those programs are behind the scene, so they are in the subconscious. It's kind of a way they are invisible. You're not aware of it, right? They are
Mhm.
definitely impacting your life, right? Because maybe I should take an example for our audience to understand how those programs think.
Yeah, and I when you were sharing that, it really, this question, I asked this question. It was one question I asked myself: am I allowed to get better? It's kind of funny to say that after, if someone is struggling with mental health issues, but a lot of times working in the field for 4 years, I feel like people talk about mental illness more than mental health. What is that? How about the health aspect of it? Other things is another illustration that that helps me, and when I'm working with people, is if I had a learning disability, Alon, if I have a learning disability, does it mean I can't learn, or do I have to learn differently? So I feel with mental health, I have to live differently. I just have to find what the problem. I always like to use derivative when I was in trigonometry. Derivative of whatever big equation is really what the problem is. So let's say a lot of cultural, environmental, maybe some substance use, but the problem leads to the idea that I feel that I am worth nothing, or I feel that um, that I feel some inferiority, or I feel left out. I feel like a burden. I feel like any of these core elements when it comes to emotions. And if you don't really solve them and you blanket it, and for me, everyone has their, when it comes to medication, I feel like everything has to be, there's always this how do I say, it's a lot of things at once. Medication can help not solve it, not at all. But when it comes to a person's environment, if someone's financial stability gets better, they're going to feel better. If their physical health improves, they're going to feel partially better. So it's all those pieces of the puzzle, and I feel that we're, and I like how you put it. It's how those two questions: what is a problem, and how can I solve it? And I feel when we take apart things that way, I remember when I was in the military during 9/11, a lot of times it was hard. And when we're stuck there, we just looked at one problem at a time, and it was more helpful than just thinking about the whole thing and feeling how much we can't do anything. So the limited belief, as you mentioned. Any comments, anything you want to share
Sure.
that I said? Go ahead.
Since we're talking math, right? So what is the common denominator? What is the common denominator? Because you can talk about disability, I understand, and you have to adapt to that clearly, right? But what is the common denominator of all the mental health issue? No doubt they have a limiting belief. No doubt. Right? Now the problem is how do you fix it, right? Because we know what's causing the problem, right? Because it's our past that are dictating our present and molding our future. So if we can change our past, we can change our present, and we're going to change our future. Because if you were mentioning about not being good enough or whatever, right? Let's imagine there's a triangle like this. Yes. And inside the triangle, you've got your limiting belief. Let's pretend the limiting belief is, my dad told me I'm a loser, right? So inside the triangle, I'm a loser. On top, I'm going to think I'm a loser. On the right bottom of the triangle, right, I'm going to feel like a loser. On the left side of a triangle, the base of a triangle, I'm going to behave like a loser. So I'm going to have loser result. Because I've got loser result, I'm going to feel more like a loser, right? And I'm going to think, man, I knew I was a loser, but such a loser, right? And we've got that loop. I call that the subconscious stress loop. And we've got a ton of those program running behind the scene and controlling us. So in a way, you have to get better. In a way, you're not. Because those programs are winning. If you look at the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, your conscious mind is only 5 to 10% of your mind. Depends who you're reading. And the subconscious mind is 90 to 95% of your mind. Your conscious mind processes data at 11 bits per second. your subconscious mind processes data at 11 million bits per second. It means right now, I'm listening to you, I'm aware of only 11 bits per second of data, and the subconscious mind is aware of 11 million bits per second more at each second, right? So you see how much powerful our subconscious mind is. So obviously, that's the one who's going to dictate. That's going to dictate the game, right? I mean, if I can say that, the mental health, right? And so it's very important when you've got empowering belief. If I go back to the triangle, you need to have. Let's see, if you've got an empowering belief, you need to have a thought, the emotion, your behavior and action align. When they align, you are unstoppable. There's no more problem with mental health, your emotion, and because it's empowering belief, right? So it's the positive aspect of that programming, right? And so the goal is to obviously delete those limiting belief. Download instead, that's the second step of my program. Download instead what the end result that you want, empowering belief. And number 3, you want to make sure that you're going to create that in your life, that's going to manifest into your life, that you're going to get the result, which is the step number 3. That's it.
Yeah. And we're going to get to a little bit of you telling about your story, your journey, what brought you to do what you're doing right now. I want to just mention as some quotes that I feel kind of mirror what we're talking about. There is hope even when your brain tells you there isn't. I a lot of times have to pause, especially during difficult situations through the week or whatever I'm doing, to also say, in Persian, a lot of us know this in different, this too shall pass. A lot of times, if I just have that little inkling, even though I may not understand, may not feel comfortable. And I want to ask you this before we get into what your story on. With all the distractions now, it's harder. Like you mentioned that cycle. So someone has this limiting belief, but then we're on our phones, we're on everything else to distract from maybe the discomfort for just a little while. So it perpetuates even more because you're not even noticing the problem because you're distracting them more and more. We're more distracted than I would say we ever were. So do you think that factors in, especially with the delay of actually taking the time to kind of figure out what the problem is in your thoughts?
I've got 2 thoughts about that. The first thought, it's like the solution is never outside. The solution is within. When you understand that, that you're not going to find outside. I mean, the problem, when we want to heal, transform ourselves and grow, we focus only on the conscious mind. It means we are using only 5 or 10% of your mind power. How it's going to be efficient? It's going to be patchwork at best, right? And so again, you need to know what's causing the problem. And what's causing the problem, it's inside. It's not outside, right? It's not taking a medication from the outside, putting on your body. It can save life. I'm not denying that, right? When people are suicidal and things like that, but it shouldn't be a long-term solution, right? Because after there's so many side effects and the entire deal, and it's not going to fix you. By definition, a medication will never be able to fix you. Meaning that you have no more problem, you can move on, right? So when you understand that, you understand, and what's causing the problem, because it's not your fault. That's what I want to tell people. It's not your fault if you're having bad. You have been programmed, right, by other people and all that. So it's not your fault. But when you know what's causing it, it's your responsibility to do something about it.
Of course, I think I encourage. Accountability is not a bad word when it's a safe place. So it's the why. What's next after that? I'm more interested, because we have when it comes to crisis situations, person attempts suicide or something. Those times, we have what we do with that. But what happens after? What happens when people get bored of the person, or the person feels like more of a burden, and he's in this perpetual cycle? What's next for him? And I do agree in the sense of long term, it helps with the symptoms, medication, but it doesn't help with what the problem or the individual. So there's always a bit more. I'm always interested in that. So, when along
Yeah,
those
because
lines, go ahead. Sorry.
the problem is not caused by lack of medication.
Yeah,
I know it sounds
that's
silly what I'm saying, but that's the
yeah.
truth.
I
So if
know,
you
and
really want to address your problem, you're serious about it, that's not the right philosophy. I'm not
yeah,
saying emergency room, they save life,
that's
right? They
yeah.
use medication for that. I have no problem with that, right? But if
Mm,
you take like long-term pain and stress, which I specialize in, they are
mm,
the number three leading of cause of death.
mm,
Right? They are killing people, right? Because
yeah,
it's not the right philosophy for long term because they don't find out what's causing the problem.
I see.
Therefore,
And I
they cannot heal you. And after the problem get bigger and bigger, and the
mm,
side effect get bigger and bigger, and after it
mm,
affects other part of a human mind, of a human body.
yeah,
So it's killing people. What I'm talking about, it's not, that's why I said there's a time for everything, right? For
of
emergency
course.
room, somebody's going to kill himself. Yeah, you need to have an injection to calm him down. Of course, no problem, right?
Mm,
But for long term, no,
mm,
that's killing people. Number
mm,
number three leading cause of death. That's not
mm,
something you can brush it out, right? Number
yeah.
three leading cause of death are side effect of medication and medical errors.
Mm-hmm.
And that's their statistic, AMA, American Medical Association. So that's why I'm very
Yes.
serious about that when I say that they cannot heal you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a place for it? Yes. And we already talked about that, right?
Yeah. Of
I just
course.
wanted to make sure that people understand that, right?
And I appreciate that. There's a distinct difference when this person's in crisis situation versus we're talking about more
Exactly.
long term. There's a lot of nasty side effects with all this stuff prolonged for long term, and I do understand that. I want to ask you. I do this to an old guest, to returning guests, to just give a little bit about yourself, what you do. I'll plug away. I just want people who are listening to get to know you a little bit more and why you do what you do, whatever you're comfortable with.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, I can describe my life a little bit, and so obviously I've got that tiny accent, right? I was born and raised in south of France, right? I used to live on my sailing boat, right? Minding
Mm-hmm.
my own business, partying all the time. I used to rent boat, right? They used to call me the gypsy. I had long hair, earrings, and drinking a lot, and having fun. I was young. I started my first business. I was 22 years old. I never looked back, right? And so,
Mm-hmm.
and after, when I was done with work, like in October, right? I used to
Mm-hmm.
sell, and when the weather got too bad with the Mediterranean Sea, I will buy a airfare ticket and go to South Hemisphere and just enjoy myself, right? So I was kind of a sun chaser for almost a decade, right? So I did that, and one day had a calling, and I saw myself helping people, right? And so it's kind of my mission in life has been given to me. You have to understand that nobody in my family was remotely involved with being doctor, nurse, with healthcare, and no massage therapist, nothing. So to make a long story short, I ended up being intrigued by chiropractic, right? I didn't know what it was, but somebody told me about it, a Chinese doctor in France. And basically, I went for it because we are talking about the innate intelligence, our own ability to heal yourself. And that was fascinating to me. And so I sold my boat business, told my parents. The gypsy told his parents, oh, by the way, I'm going to become a doctor in America. But I went for it. I couldn't help it. You have no doubt when you know what you know. And so I did it, and I graduated. And after I started to treat people, right, with chiropractic, and people will get better pretty fast, but after they plateau pretty fast. And to maintain the plateau, they still have to come to see me. So I thought, remember, number one and number two, well, maybe chiropractic doesn't go towards all those of a problem, right? And maybe chiropractic, it's incomplete the way to fix it. So what I did, I became a cranial specialist because chiropractic touch only 20% of the nervous system, which is called the peripheral nervous system, which is the nerves that going out of the side of your spine and going everywhere in your body. And 80% of your nervous system called the central nervous system, which is made of the brain and the spinal cord. So I thought, what if we can impact by 80%, right? And cranial work did it. So I've learned that. I created my own energy technique. And after, some people will come to see me and say, Dr. Salas, I've got joint pain, and whatever I will do will not last. The benefit will not last at all. So it was another kind of stress, right? It was not physical stress. It was what we call chemical stress or inflammation. And so what I did, you will come, I will do muscle testing, and your body will tell me which organ under stress and what's causing the stress in the body. And I will figure out what to do about it, right? And to help you. And I made a practice out of that second stress, of that inflammation. And basically, I used to have like 4 employees and see 250 patients a week, right? And I was living the American dream, like the big house, best neighborhood, like the dog. I met my wife, a French woman, in a bar in Kansas City, and we've got a daughter named Maya. So everything was fine, right? I was living my purpose. I was making money. But you know what, Robert? When you think you've got it all, you made it. If life's got more ambition than you do, and say, hold on, whoever this is not it, right? There's much more for you. And so sure enough, within a year, what happened, because I started to get burned out, right? Overworked, right? But also, when I was coming back home, I was there, but I was not present, right? So of course, my marriage went down the drain, right? And within a year, I ended up divorcing, right? And when you've got a daughter or like a kid, a young kid is never a handshake, trust me. So I become depressed, and so my practice went from thriving to failing. I ended up being the only one in that big office, right? And and after I got diagnosed with early stage of colon cancer. So here I am, I'm telling you what to do to avoid cancer, cardiovascular disease, the big killer. I'm doing obviously my own program. I'm getting sick. So I have to rethink about everything, about my job, about my relationship, about my prosperity, about everything in life, right? Basically, everything. My health, obviously. And so, but I knew something, Robert, because I'm pretty intuitive and creative. And I knew something. I knew that I was not a victim. I knew that the solution were not outside. I knew there was something deep within me that was pushing me to sabotage my health, to sabotage my relationship, and to sabotage my prosperity. So I was pretty happy with what I could do with physical stress, with the chemical stress, the inflammation. And so now my quest was, okay, how can we address the mental and emotional stress, right? Which I think that's the reason why, I got sick, right? And sabotage all my relationship. And that's how, from that experience, I'm just, of course I'm a doctor, but just a common man, but trying to find, solution for his problem.
Yeah.
That's basically it, right?
Yeah.
And so, as you know, there's one more thing I wanted to tell when you were talking about that. There's one thing that is important for everybody to know. And what I'm going to say, you say, oh, that's obvious. But when you keep that in mind, it's very important. But in life, there's always ups and downs. And it's normal if you feel bad. There's no, especially when I came in from my culture being French and Spanish, right? And when I came to this country, everybody's fine. You ask them, because in France, when you say, how are you doing? And they will say, oh, they will complain and share their things, right? They'll be more, they will have more intimacy in a way, right? Even though it can be superficial, but they let you in a little bit. In America, everybody's fine. I say, what a wonderful country. Everybody's in good mood. Everybody's fine, right? It's a facade, right? You see? So we don't talk about our problem and things like that. Oh, we want to have fun. We want, and behind the door, it's a different story, because we are all human. We've all, that has been programmed. We've all limiting belief. But what I want to say, it's normal it's like, because everything in life is like a wave, right? It's a vibration, right? So you've got a positive and negative and positive and negative. So you're going to have ups and downs. What makes the difference between individuals, it's not really the challenge they are, although sometimes, we can debate that for some extreme cases, right? That is basically how you deal with it.
Yeah.
Right? What is your state of mind when you've got that challenge, or when is the state of mind when you've got that trauma, whatever, right? And so obviously the people who've got more empowering belief, right, and less limiting belief, they're going to be much happier and probably wealthier, and probably healthier than other people, for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to share this. One of the things that helped me was, a lot of times with people who have mental health issues, they seem to want to, at least for me, I wanted people to understand what I was going through. This is back. When I said to myself, it wasn't working. Like I looked at it, I would tell people, and I'll be unsatisfied because their interpretation is not what I experienced. Then I asked myself, what's this whole cycle for? Like, and I just eventually cut that out. I stopped explaining, and it felt lighter. And I'm saying this from memory, obviously, but that allowed me to say to myself, am I allowed to get better? Am I allowed the time to get better? And it's such a strange question, because I say this to my clients that I work with, and sometimes I get defensive, like, of course I'm allowed to get better. I'm like, well, are you allowed to say no to certain things? Are you allowed to say yes to certain things? A lot of times we say these things because, like you said, in America, a lot of times we say we're fine. We're there's a facade. We wear a mask, and sometimes underneath that mask is another mask. So it's important, at least for me, as simple as saying to myself and looking and analyzing, well, I'm telling them. Now the question becomes, does a person have to understand what I'm going through to support me? And the question is no. The answer is no. No one really understands what people go through. And that was a limiting belief that was heavy, because I felt I had to interpret, because I didn't really feel I was allowed to feel this way, which kind of fed to the idea that I was a burden and all that stuff. So it all attached. When I was able to release that, at least from what we've been talking about, that's what comes to mind when I was thinking about what you're sharing. So
yeah, what I wanted to say, it's like, why they take people who has been alcoholic to help people who are actually alcoholic, because they truly have the knowledge. They have been going through. You can have a PhD, you can read books about alcoholism, but it will never compare to you experiencing it, right? And have to go through the addiction. So can everybody can understand you? No, of course not, because they don't know. They have not been in your shoes, right? Exactly. And so that's normal, right? That's normal, right? But you understand that. But so that's something that I wanted to tell you, and that's basically it.
Yeah, and as I do really like of your approach. Is there anything you want to share to expand on what you're doing? What have you seen helped you? Obviously, you had experience, and then after that, we're going to kind of wrap things up. But anything you want to share that has been? Yeah, go ahead.
There's some misunderstanding about what our limiting beliefs are, right? If you go to Google and you put limiting belief on it, what you're gonna have, not good enough, it's a self-esteem thing, right? Yeah. I'm too young to do this or too old to do this. But I'm telling you, this is only a part of my program. I call that goal and success clearing, right? But there's another part of my program what I noticed that, and that's when I knew I was really under something, it's when I was able to treat pain, physical pain, neck pain, low back pain, by doing only limiting belief work, by really reprogramming the brain, right? Because those limiting beliefs are negative programming. So do you think your mind can create pain? You bet you. Do you think that your mind can create symptoms in your body? You bet you. Do you think that your mind can create inflammation in your body? You bet you. Let's see, they know that when they do research study. Let's see if I've got like a heartburn, okay? And they go do that research study, double blind, right? And they say, you know what? Dr. Salas, you're going to take that pill and we're going to see if your heartburn go away. I say, okay. All right, so I take that pill and my heartburn goes away. I say, man, that pill is working very well. They say, hold on, Dr. Salas. This was not the pill. This was the sugar pill. And they call that the placebo effect. So it means my subconscious belief, and maybe my conscious belief too, but it has to be in the subconscious, right? My subconscious belief that if I take the pill, I'll be healed, because maybe my dad one day took the pill and it helped him, whatever program I had on that, right? Okay? And they say, oh, it's only the placebo effect. No, that's how we heal. That's true healing. That's how it's happening. That's having the subconscious mind working for you instead of working against you. That's an empowering belief. And after we talk about the nocebo effect, I don't know if you have heard about that, Robert. There's a placebo effect and the nocebo effect. So what is the nocebo effect? I take the pill, I get better, but they told me, you know, what you may experience if you take the pill, there's some side effect. And the side effect is pain in your belly, on your stomach, right? So I take the pills, this goes away, placebo effect works, right? And I say, oh man, I've got pain in my stomach, like they told me. But they say, hold on, you never had the pill. This is the sugar pill. So the belief that potentially that can create pain will cause me to have pain. And the nocebo effect are the bad news, all the fear, like you were talking about the media, the social media, all the pressure that we experience to have a perfect life, right? Standardized perfect life, standardized perfect body, whatever we see, that all the pressure we had, all those creating program. And those programs are dictating our life. You see, for me, I'm a knowledge, truth, and freedom seeker. And I just want to know what's causing my problem and really who we are, right? And so are we only our limiting belief? Like, no. The good news, okay, the bad news, you can say, oh man, I've been programmed and what can I do, right? Well, the good news, if you have been programmed, you can be reprogrammed or deprogrammed. And that's what the mind clearing will do to yourself. To give you an idea, I treat people with pain like over the internet, right? Just doing that reprogramming that I'm telling you, and 70 to 80% of the people, we have no more pain and it won't come back within 2 treatments. That's crazy, right? So it shows you the power of your mind, right? And show your power of your belief positively and negatively, right? And so that's what I want to say, that you are so much more powerful. You have been told that you're only 5 or 10% of your mind. You have been told that you're only like flesh and bone, right? You're so much more than that. You are spirit, you know, living a physical experience. And all those 90%, you know, you were conceived with it. Like I like to say, you know, that's going to be the future title of one of my books. Is going to be conceived to succeed and programmed to fail. So at conception, we've got everything. And even at birth, like when you look at the baby, there's no analytical mind, right? There's less, you know, a limiting belief, right? They are kind of in another world, right? In a different world, right? And so that's why we're so attracted to the baby, right? And so we can definitely, by getting rid of all the limiting belief, after you can have more alignment, you can have more peace of mind, we can have an open mind, an open heart, and an open will. So what I want to say...
Sorry.
Yes?
I was just asking,
it's like...
I'm sorry. I was going to ask, do you have a website?
Yes. And so what I want to say, finally, I want to say you are so much more powerful than you think you are. And this mind clearing will empower you to heal yourself, transform yourself, or get some very good help. Because right away you will feel the benefit. It's not something you have to wait or visit and you have to have a journal and do a ton of affirmation and all that. No, that's the way you start. You having a problem, let's say a negative emotion, it's 9 over 10. After the session, it should be 0 or 1 over 10. If it come back, we treat that as a resistance, and after we move on to the next things, right? So now, if you want to contact me, right? So my website is called themindclearing.com, themindclearing.com. You go into contact, there's a form, right? Very good. There's a form, right? And you just write down what you want. If you're coming from the podcast, from Robert Podcast, right? Revive Ministry, right? Revive Ministry, right? I thought about mystery for something. I'm sorry. Ministry. And so you get 20% off of a treatment personally with me, right? We take an hour, and whatever you want to is overwhelming for you, you know, we can treat you, right? And whatever problem. And the second thing, if you want to learn it from yourself, because I knew that this technique will be also for coach and health professional. We want to go deeper and really transform the life of their client. And also for yourself, you can learn it for yourself. You don't need a PhD of health. You don't need a PhD or relationship or business or prosperity to do that. No, it's just simple reprogramming that I will teach you, right? So not only you can empower yourself, but you can help your loved one, right? And if you do that, you get the entire system, you will get 50% discount, 50% discount. So again, we can talk about that, Robert, forever, right?
Yeah.
That true knowledge is when you experience things. When you went through your mental issue, you had the experience. You have the experience on it, right? You know exactly what this is about, right? That's the same thing. If you want to get the result and if you want to experience, you have to experience it. Like that, you will truly understand and be able to comprehend fully what I'm talking about and how this can help you.
And I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. My final thoughts are just, I remember this quote from Jim Carrey. He says, if you're not willing to downgrade your lifestyle for a year to have a lifestyle you want forever, you care too much what other people think. I think sometimes we kind of think too much. What is important to you? I encourage those who are listening to check out the website, to check out and see if this is something for you. Again, thank you so much for coming on. Alain Salas, it's been a pleasure. I just want to remind people to stay updated with Revive Ministries through various platforms. ReviveMinistriesFL.com is our website. You can always email me at info@ReviveMinistriesFL.com. This is goodbye for Revive Ministries, leaving you with this last quote. Ralph Waldo Emerson: what lies behind us and what lies before us are little tiny matters compared to what lies within us.